So let's have a chat about Jai Simpkin really quickly. The Indigenous All Stars game was last night, and what a cool spectacle it was. Look, was it the most competitive game ever? No, but it was so exciting to see, you know, a preseason game that's a little bit of an exhibition, but it's exciting and it's played in the right way. Like, it was competitive. It wasn't like the NBA All-Star game where no one cares. People clearly cared for the jumpers and I guess, wanted to represent Indigenous culture and all that sort of stuff. And, I don't really have much of a script for this episode or this clip. I'm just going to talk about how I feel because I think for North Melbourne and Jai Simpkin, it's a big day. It's a big moment because I think it sets the tone for Jai's season. And just clearly what it meant to him in the game was something super special. So the game as a whole, I enjoyed it. I hope, and I like what Gary Lyon said in the future, I hope they play it every season, but could potentially do Indigenous All-Star versus each state or something like that. A Victoria and then a South Australia play the Indigenous All-Stars and Western Australia and all that sort of stuff. I think that would be really, really cool. Everyone wants State of Origin except the people who make money, apparently. So anyway, we won't get into that. For Jai Simpkin on the night, a team stacked full of stars, the Indigenous All Stars. And was Jai Simpkin one that anyone was expecting to stand out? I don't think so. No, not even me, to be honest like that. I've always been a backer of Jai. I love that he's our captain, and I've always supported him as our captain. But I didn't think he was, going to stand out in that absolute pack of guns. And boy, did he stand out. So I'm going to read out a few of the stats from the game, just from Jai's game. 1 goal, 30 disposals, 6 marks, 3 tackles, but 10 clearances in a side that has some incredibly good players in it. It's almost like he made a statement in that game. And I understand people can think this is overreacting. I can understand if people think, oh, no, you're a North fan, you're being too emotional about the game. I don't really agree with that, to be honest. Jai Simpkin's been under a lot of pressure recently. Co-captains with Luke McDonald through a very, very tough time in North Melbourne's history. And to be the one to lead the team through this really, really hard time, I think gets underestimated. Like Zeeble. Like Zeeble sort of took over the captaincy for North when we were on the downwards trajectory, let's say. And, it's much harder to lead a team through a hard time than it is to captain them through a good time. I really think Jai Simpkin needs a lot more respect for what he's done. As an example, everyone would agree didn't have the best season last season. Disposals, 21 disposals a game, which is in the elite category, according to AFL.com, for disposals with a midfielder. 12 kicks, nearly 9 handballs, 3 tackles, and 4.1 clearances, which is an elite level apparently, even though it doesn't seem like many clearances. But, I don't think he was quite as bad as everyone thinks. So part of a bad team and all that sort of stuff, I understand. But all in all, a down year. I mean, this is a 2-time Sid Barker medalist. You look at the numbers from his 2 Sid Barkers in 21 and 22, nearly 27 disposals a game there, which was insane. 5.5 clearances a game we're sort of looking at here. A lot more inside 50s and impact up the ground. So, no one's going to deny that there's a drop-off in his form. But when you go from being elite is a strong word because I don't think he's in the elite of the midfielders in the competition, but he's definitely a B-grade midfielder. If your A-graders, are your Bonts and your Cripps and that sort of stuff, I think Simpkin would be like a lower part of the A tier. B tier seems harsh. I look at B tier midfielders and I think of guys like a Merritt. And Merritt is better than Simpkin. I'm not going to try and pretend that that's not the case. But Simpkin at his best matches it with those those B-grade midfielders. It's sort of Bont, Cripps, maybe like a Sheasel and Dacos you could put in the A-grade. I'm sure there's others there I'm forgetting and people are going to roast me, but it is what it is. But then when you look at that next tier of midfielders, he can absolutely be there. I don't know if he's going to be that A-grade midfielder. I love him so much. I love he's the captain of our club, but I don't think that's crazy to say. But LDU is above him. Wardlaw's got the capability. McKercher, Sullivan, Sheasel. Those guys all have A-grade potential. Simpkin is that next tier down. But he has shown he can play at an incredibly high level. Last year, a lot of concussion problems. We know what Jimmy Webster did to him in the preseason. And I think that set him back. Now, do I understand concussion? Absolutely not. I've been concussed a couple of times in football, but those were the days when you sort of just got hit. You felt real murky. My experience with concussion was getting hit, feeling like I'm underwater in a pool and everything was muffled and blurry and slow. Not the best, but I just got up and kept playing because I didn't know any different. Getting hit at that sort of level with bigger bodies would really rock you. And I think maybe we underestimated how much of an impact it would have. I think he stepped up in some big games last year. If you look back at the West Coast game, you look back at the game. I know we got smashed, but against Hawthorn in the last round, he was the only one really putting in a shift. And I think that's leadership. So I think this can set him up for a really, really big 2025. He's going to be playing a new role. He's going to be more half forward, as we know, sort of interchanging him, Shees, Parker, probably interchanging through that half forward area because we've got the likes of Sheasels and LDUs and Wardlaws and Powell and that sort of stuff going through that midfield. So it's tough. It's tough in the midfield at the moment. But it doesn't mean he can't be a really important, effective player. We know he's going to get plenty of midfield time, plenty of centre bounces. But, he did really well playing. He comes from a background of being a forward. He was drafted as a mid forward. I think he showed yesterday in the game he can absolutely do it up forward. And like I said, in that Hawthorn game, he kicked 3 goals, if I'm not mistaken. That West Coast game, he kicked that incredibly clutch goal to win us the game. So he stands up in big moments. He's good in the forward line. I think he can really thrive in this role. Sort of half forward, you can push up to the wing and create a contest and be the midfielder we know he can be. So, will he return to his best form? Maybe yes, but maybe not in exactly the same way because he's not going to be up in the forward line. He's going to be up in the forward line, not going to be just a pure midfielder, which we needed him to be before we drafted all these young guns. So I'm really excited for Jai Simpkin. The other part, let's talk about in the game is the emotional side of it. So I had no idea, and why would we? Because it's not for him to tell everybody, but I had no idea his pop passed away around Christmas. And that happening in his life, gaining the full captaincy of the club, going through so many hard years off the field with North Melbourne, I guess, with his own rehab and injuries and concussions. And then, on the field, trying to do everything he can to drag this team back to where, it should be. That is such a massive burden to have on one player's shoulders. And I think he's handled it really, really well. I love him as our captain. I know Shees will captain one day and all that sort of stuff, but I absolutely love him as our captain. To celebrate the way he did, thumbs up to the sky to tribute his pop, and just the pride he showed in wearing the Guernsey as well. I'm never going to try and pretend I know everything there is to do about Indigenous culture. I want to learn more and we all should, but, seeing them all do like a haka at the start of the game. I know it's not the haka. No, it's probably a traditional dance, Indigenous dance. But I guess it can show respect to the other team, but then it can also show that they're in for a fight. And it really pumped me up watching it. I thought it was cool. And I guess watching Jai be part of that, I don't know, I guess I haven't seen that side of him before. And it's really, really cool. I like how into it he was. He seems to really, really care about his Indigenous culture and be super passionate about it. And I think that's really cool. So clearly, emotionally, the game meant a lot to him with his pop and representing the Indigenous All Stars. And with the emotional weight that probably had and everything he's been through over the last few years with North Melbourne, to stand up, it was a preseason game. I understand that. But to be best on ground and to clearly show that it meant that much to him, I really think that if North can improve as a side on the field, he will really, really excel in this new system. I've always backed him as a player, and I feel like some people not have written him off, but have sort of doubted if he's going to be in the mix within a few years of North Melbourne. And he's signed a 5-year deal. He's going to be best. He's easily best 22. I mean, it's probably our best 10 players. But I really hope he can kick on from this massive bit of confidence in the preseason compared to last year in the preseason when he had no confidence because he's knocked out in the ground by an absolute grub of a player. So I really, really hope that Jai Simpkin can kick on from this and have a massive, massive season. That's all I really wanted to talk about today. I just wanted, I think, as a North Melbourne fan base and a community in the smaller club that we are, the social media respect and pouring of emotion in from the fans towards Jai was fantastic to see last night. And it really made me happy to see all the fans get behind him and accept or realize the moment and the gravity of the moment it was to him, and jumping on board. You know, every one of his teammates has posted him winning best on ground last night, a Polly Farmer medal, I think it was called. And, you know, it just seems like everyone's getting behind him. And I really, really like that. And when you support a smaller team, they're the things that really, really matter. He knows the support's there from the club, from the fan base. Hopefully everyone can back him as the captain of this club and really support him, because I think we could all agree that seeing Jai have a huge, huge year would mean a lot to the fan base, and he deserves success, you know, just like many other players in the competition who have done it the hard yards. I mean, I'm not a Carlton fan at all, but Patrick Cripps deserves a premiership, arguably more than any other player in the AFL. You know what I mean? And you know, Larky and Zerha and Simpkin are probably the ones. Definitely Larky and Simpkin. Zerha, we don't need to get into all that, but I thought he was going to leave. Maybe not. Just shows his passion in a quieter way, but clearly likes North Melbourne signing the deal. Those three have been there, sort of got drafted when we're on the way down, have stuck through it, all re-signed. And, you know, in 3-4 years' time, hopefully when North are a really good team, they're going to deserve a premiership like a Cripps or someone like that. I'm not saying they're as good of a player as Patrick Cripps, but people who are doing the hard yards, love the club, clearly are committed to getting this group bigger and better than ever. That's what we want to see. And Jai should absolutely hold up the Premiership Cup if he ever gets it, and just be like, I've been here since day one. I've captained this club. We've been through so many bad times. I deserve this more than anyone. So, look, this video is just about my support for Jai, how I felt on the night, and trying to maybe replicate what I saw online and put it out in a different format for everyone to listen to and get behind to support Jai Simpkin. So, everyone get behind Jai for this season. I'm so excited to watch him play. I think he's in for a big year and a big bounce back year in a slightly different role. And he can be such a crucial player to drag us forward. We've got Sheezers, we've got Wardlaws, we've got McKerchers, we've got that sort of stuff. But let's not forget about our fearless leader, our skipper, Jai Simpkin. What a guy. I love him to bits. So congratulations, Jai. I really hope I get to meet you at some point, shake your hand and say how much of an inspiration you've been to North fans over the last few years. Good luck for the season. And yeah, go North. We'll chat soon.